Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the T&T Podcast. As always, it's your boy Tyler Layfield, always joined by my co-host Torres Finney. Torres, how's it going?
Going great, brother. Going great. Just got done training, ready to go, baby. What's going on?
That's it. That's it. And you know we had to bring in the big guns. We're doing an SEC preview today, so we got Kobe Reed up in the building. Kobe, how's it going, man?
It's good, man. I'm excited to talk some football. I was feeling like that time of year. You can feel it. Fall is upon us. The season is upon us. What better time to hop on the pod with the boys?
That's it. That's it. So we wanted to make sure we got some some other SEC guys up in here. They're big on it. I feel like it was a little bit of we will get Jackson for sure on a future show,
Oh,
but I don't
definitely.
want to put him in a serious like what do you call it, a little conflict of interest where he's sitting here having to talk about too much dogs, not enough tech. You know what I'm saying? So we'll get him on here. Sure enough. So we're going to be going through, y'all, just a preview of this year's SEC conference. As you know, we have added two new teams. That's Texas, Oklahoma, and there are no longer divisions within the conference. So it's just top two go to the SEC championship. So a little bit of some different stuff going on. There is a 12-team playoff. So let's dive right in, man, and let's talk about the bottom of the barrel teams. And when we're getting into this, we're going to go basically who we think are our top four bottom teams, I guess, or the bottom four teams, not even top. Don't even mention
Bottom
top in the
four.
comp. And yeah, bottom four. And now I'll go through and I'll take my 16 through 13, and I'll let y'all think. Okay, I'll let y'all kind of tell me what you think here. So starting from the bottom, right? Vandy. I got Vandy going 2-10. I've got Florida 2-10, tied for last there. Then I got Mississippi State, and we'll crack this thing down. I'll tell you my reasoning, and y'all can tell me
Wow.
your reasoning for contrarian. That's why before the
Okay.
show I was telling he was like I got South Carolina and Florida. I was like I don't even think we're in the same ballpark. Mississippi State 3-9
Bold.
and Arkansas 4-8. So what about y'all? I know we all
Mm.
got those four teams at the bottom. What do y'all? What's your takes on that? And who do you see? What do you see shifting there? I know Kobe, you did the whistle. What you thinking there, my guy?
I I think you got three out of those four correct as far as like their win totals. You got Mississippi State, you got Vandy, and you have Arkansas. They can border anywhere from 2 to 4 wins. I don't think any of those three get above 4 wins this year. But
Mm-hmm.
Florida is a tough evaluation because of their schedule. I think they're going to end up being one of those teams. I do think they are more talented than their record will say, but I'm not that high on them. I can see Florida maybe pulling out 5 games this year. But with
Okay.
that being,
What would those five be? You
if
get
you're
an
looking at their,
automatic. You get an automatic with Sanford, and I gave
yeah,
them Mississippi State. Now, who would be those other three you got?
honestly, they can win any of their first. No, I wouldn't say any of their first five. I'm really thinking about the back half of their schedule because what
Texas,
do you?
LSU, Ole Miss, Florida
They
State.
got 5 automatic losses on that schedule, in my opinion.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did.
If you're looking at Georgia, I think that's a loss. Texas, that's a loss.
Yep.
Um, trying to think about who
LSU's a
else to put.
loss. Ole
Let
Miss
me
a
pull up their
loss. Florida
schedule.
State's a loss.
So I'm looking at their schedule now. I think Miami. I think that's a coin flip. I'm not high on Miami. I do think Miami has a talented roster, but I think because of that rivalry, it's going to be hard to judge.
You,
Um,
you could be right there.
Sanford's a win. Mississippi State's a win. UCF is a win.
What about A&M? You skipped over A&M.
Looking at A&M, A&M is definitely a more talented roster,
I'm
but they
calling
are
that a loss.
playing at home in the swamp. Do you trust Connor Wigman, and do you trust a new Mike Elko and that offense to go win a big game in the swamp? I think that's a toss up.
It's closer. I
So
gave I
basically, in
gave
their
you I
first
gave
five
UCF the
games,
win in that one too. By the way, UCF's actually
I
shouldn't be
can't. I'm
slept on.
giving. They shouldn't be slept on. But I'm going to give Florida the win. I think your 5 winnable games could be Sanford, A&M, State, UCF, and maybe Kentucky.
Okay,
But
Mm.
Torres.
after Kentucky, I don't see them winning a game.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Torres, what are your takes here?
I'm a little bit leaning towards Tyler about Florida. With the 2 wins, I mean, I could give them a third one against Mississippi State, but that's on the road. That's not an easy game necessarily for them. I feel like Texas A&M has enough to beat them, but then again, it depends on how they with their new look of coming into this new season. That
Yeah.
could be a toss-up game as well. So their best chances of winning game, as crazy as it sounds, is within those first 5 games. They better get 3 out of those
How
first
do you
5.
think they fare against Miami week 1?
Um, See, the thing is about the first game of the season, that could be anything. Very similar to like
It's
And
a
it's
how
in
true.
Gainesville, like
that's what I'm
that's going to be
saying.
a tough game.
That's what I'm saying. That can be they could win that, which is crazy. Like
Yeah.
they can start off hot, as we've seen multiple teams throughout the season, years. They'll start off hot at the beginning of the season. First 2, 3 games, like, oh man, this team looking good. By the time you get to game 8 or 9, guess what? They look like a completely different team. So
Well, to add on to that first game thing, though, I mean, I sat there and I looked at these depth charts too. When I was going through with these high matchup things, I don't have to look at Sanford's depth chart to really pick this, pick that one. I feel
yeah,
like that's a kind of a given. Even though Sanford, more, credit to you, they play teams pretty tough. I mean, they've been known to be able to be one of those lower level teams that gives these Power Five teams a run for the money. But looking at Miami's depth chart, they bring in Cam Ward from Washington State.
Yep.
Given I may not necessarily like the attitude the dude has a lot of the time, but he is talented. Bringing in Damian Martinez, right?
Mhm.
That's a good running back.
a good
They
team.
have stability on the offensive line. They got Samson Okunlola, a former 5-star. You got
Yep.
Francis Mauoga, that's a former 5-star. Like they got some dudes right there. You still got Jacoby George, Xavier Restrepo. They got Nykar from Colquitt County. Maybe he can make some things happen in the wide receiver room. Defense is really the kind of question for me, but they did bring in some
Especially
dudes there
that DB
too.
room is a big question for me.
Yeah, it is. It is, and they lost a lot. I mean, James Williams, I think he left this past year, right? He went to the NFL.
Yeah. You lost
But
that
Tyler
duo they had at safety. You haven't had a
safety was
lockdown
great.
corner there in a long time.
Yeah,
And I'm thinking you're at home in the swamp and you have those questions at DB. You got a veteran guy like Graham Mertz. You got Eugene Wilsons of the world. I think playing in that environment, I feel like Florida could pull it off. I'm not saying I'm
they
a
could.
Graham Mertz fan, but week 1, I have too many questions about Miami to just say it's a surefire win.
Yeah, but if I'm picking probabilities, I'm giving Miami the edge there.
I'm
I
probably giving
really am.
Miami the win as well, but it's going to be. I can see that game being close. It's
You're
crazy.
right. I'm not going at it. As far as like that's a
Yeah.
total dumb take. I just because I
My
could
my
definitely
my
see it.
line of thinking is, at what point do they throw in DJ Lagway? Because I
Yeah,
think it
that's
happens.
what's in the mix too.
And
You're
I
right.
think if you do that, say you lose a tough one on the road at Tennessee, you want to try another way, or if you're struggling against Mississippi State moving the ball or UCF moving the ball, what happens when they throw in a DJ Lagway and he scores 3 touchdowns, 300 yards against Kentucky? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's my line of thinking. I think something like that is going to happen.
It's in the realm of possibilities. I mean, he's very talented. You bring up defense, but let's look at the defense of Florida real quick too. I mean, what's their? I mean, you can educate me here. I'm not seeing a ton. I mean, I like Jason Marshall at corner.
Yeah.
I outside of that, Shamar James, I did like him coming out of high
Yeah.
school. Outside of that, dude, I'm telling you right now, I'm not huge on this either.
I'm not huge on their
LJ
defense.
McCray,
But you gotta think about their defense a little bit from the aspect of they got a lot of like deep Power 5 bounce backs. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of kids that you see that either transfer. You see a lot of kids that decommit from bigger schools, like low 4-star kids, and for some reason you see them end up at Florida, and you got guys that have been there for a while, or you got guys that have transferred in and they already got a year under their belt. I don't think Florida's going to be elite by defensively by any means, but I feel like when you throw a guy like DJ Lagway in there, and I feel like he's going to be that much of a game changer. I feel like you can maybe get 4 or 5 wins out of that schedule.
Torres, where do you think games are won? In the what?
Trenches. Everybody
in the
knows
trenches.
that.
In the trenches. And I don't trust that offensive line and that defensive line of Florida. They have not prioritized offensive line in recruiting in years. It feels like Billy Napier has not really put anything there. Maybe Damian George from Bama can come in and save the day. Kobe, how much do you know about him?
Damian George can walk in and be a day one starter at a program like Florida, but also there's a reason he didn't cut it at Bama.
And I feel like the only reason y'all took him at Bama was to try to do like a little Zach Evans come here, like before all the Ray flags with Zach Evans really came out.
Look, I don't want to talk about the Zach Evans era. That was a bad era of football.
That was a crazy thing. But that's where we're at with bottom of the barrel. Mississippi State, I mean, I looked at theirs. It's just
what you had to reckon at, Tyler?
I had them at 3-9. That's what I had
Yeah.
Mississippi State at, and it was wins with Eastern Kentucky, Toledo, and UMass. That's what I had. Anybody have any objections there?
What's their win total at this year? Is it 4 games?
It probably is. Arizona State might be in the mix there with them, but
Yeah,
I think it's at Arizona State, and they
It
got
is.
what's the coach's name? Dillingham over there. I mean, I think that's his name, Dillingham
yeah.
over there at Arizona State. He's decent. They have some okay guys.
Yeah,
You
looking
never
at
know.
the odds is they're over and under is 4.5 this year. So
I'm
yeah,
taking
it's
the
Yeah.
under.
not.
I'm taking the under, man. And then Vandy
Yeah,
only got 2 wins. That's Alcorn State and Ball State. I got everything else. I'm picking Del McGee to start off pretty hot at Georgia State and get a win in that third week against Vandy. I think it could definitely happen. It's at Georgia State. He's got
Yeah.
some dudes there. I think he's a good coach. I mean, that's just me. That might be the homer in me with him because I just believe in him as a coach. But that's what I got there. And then Arkansas, I had the wins being Arkansas Pine Bluff. I feel like that's a pretty given. It should be.
Yeah.
UAB, Mississippi State, and Louisiana Tech. That's the only 4 wins I had them winning. So y'all can tell me if y'all think anything different.
and you said yeah, you're right. Louisiana Tech, yeah, you're right. UAB and
I
yeah,
just don't.
it's
And
gonna be a
I
hard
think
season. It's gonna be a hard
we
season.
were texting in the group chat
Yeah.
yesterday. Kobe says he can see 4 coaches leaving the conference after this year. Now that could be, and he better clarified it for me before the show. He said that could be coming, or that could be leaving for good things or leaving for bad things.
Yeah.
And when we look at these 4 teams, do you think? I mean, obviously this would have to be leaving for bad things. I think Pittman's definitely on that list.
Yeah.
It's his time has come. I thought they were already trying to look for that last year, and it just didn't fall into place. And then, as much as I love the dude, he was a great offensive line coach at Georgia, but
Yeah.
or at least recruiter, better yet. And then Billy Napier. But I would love for
Yeah.
them to keep giving Billy Napier chances. That would be amazing to me. I would love nothing more.
It's just hard. I do think I'll address the other two, but I think you got it right with Pittman and Napier. Those were definitely the two that I was thinking about. I think Napier is gone after this year. You look at the other success that is happening, at least in recruiting, if not on the field. You see Florida State's success on the field from giving Norvell a chance. You see Miami picking it up in recruiting. You're just waiting for them to put it together. You don't see Florida recruiting, and you do not see Florida putting production on the field. I feel like after you get through this first year with conference realignment and everything else, I think you got to start looking in another direction other than Napier.
And heck, I'd even throw in. I know this is crazy, but I'd even throw in UCF in that mix. I mean, you got to
UCF.
think
That's
they've
what I'm
actually
saying.
been
Like,
recruiting their tails
answer
off.
this: is Florida a top 3 program in the state of Florida?
I don't know this year, man. I really
That's
don't.
what I'm saying. You can't have a coach. You can't have a coach and be questioning if your program is even top 3 in that state. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
feel like you'd have to go into another direction.
You're correct. You're correct. So we agree with those 4 bottom teams. Who wants to lead us here for the rebuilding teams? And what did we define this as? We defined this as 12 through 8. Is that what we
Yeah.
said? Yeah, 12 through 8. Kobe Torres, which one do y'all want to take it from there?
I'll start out at my number 12. Got a guy in Shane Beamer at South Carolina. I think you got to put them right there, number 12. I
agree.
like Beamer. I know I like Shane Beamer more than a lot of people. I think you got their win total sitting right there at about 5.5, 6. I feel like that's about where they get. I think South Carolina will win about 6 games this year. You got guys like Nick Harbor out there at wideout. You got a kid that's been sitting there coming in at quarterback. He's going to be a first-year starter after the departure of Spencer Rattler. I feel like Shane Beamer he might be able to rattle off 6 wins this year.
I got him at 5.
Okay.
That's what I got him at currently.
I can get behind that.
Because I got it. Old Dominion, Akron. I have them beating A&M. I feel like that's like a prove-it game. He needs to do something. And then I have Vandy and Wofford.
Yeah.
That's
I got them winning against Akron, Old Dominion, Vandy, Wofford. Is Clemson a toss-up game?
I don't know. It's like a wait and see kind of thing. I feel like I still
That is
got to see them.
Yeah. I
week
think
one.
Clemson's a 50-50. Kentucky's a 50-50.
Where's that game going to be at this year?
It's going to be at Clemson this year.
Okay, that makes
But
it
we've watched South Carolina walk in and beat them at Clemson even
They
recently.
have.
I think it happened
that
the
was
last time
when
they
that
went
was
there.
Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, and that was in a year where we thought Spencer Rattler was just a bust at that point. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think a
Yeah.
50-50 game at Kentucky. Is LSU and Missouri a 50-50 for them? Maybe not so much Missouri. I feel like Missouri can pull that off, but
Not the way
they're
I'm thinking
playing,
this year.
South Carolina's playing LSU at home. If LSU's defense doesn't improve that much, that could easily be a 50-50 for me.
Yeah. So you said South Carolina at
Yeah.
12. What are you guys thinking about 11 and 9? Torres, who are some teams you think are in that area?
In that area, I think surprisingly, I think we might see an Oklahoma in that area.
I don't even
Um,
think it's surprisingly after I looked at the
Ooh.
schedule.
well,
Ooh.
I
I'm
mean,
right there with
Wow.
Torres. I'm right there with you, buddy.
Huh.
Oklahoma. Granted, you look at their first few games. I mean, you got Temple, Houston, and Tulane. Obviously, I feel like they're really, really winnable. That Tennessee game at home, that's really going to tell the story. We're going to know, okay, is Oklahoma really ready for the SEC? Because I think Tennessee is going to actually have a solid team this year. I think Tennessee is going to be one of those teams, dark horses that you have to be mindful of. But then again, that's a toss-up game. So because that's a
Yeah.
toss-up game, I'm gonna go worst case scenario. I say they lose that game. All right. They lose
Yeah.
that game, then they got to go to Auburn. I think Oklahoma have enough stuff in the bag to beat Auburn. Okay, they're coming out 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
Then they got to beat Texas. What a game that was last year. I don't think they beat Texas this year. All
Not
right, so
back to
that
back.
um then you got South Carolina. That beats South Carolina, but then at Ole Miss, now you're 6-3. Got Maine 7-3 at Missouri. Come on, man, 7-4. Alabama 7-5 at LSU 7. I mean, come on, man. Like, these are some hard games. And
Yeah.
yes, they can give some of these teams a run for their money. I'm not denying that. But
Mm-hmm.
for that first year in the SEC, and their defense have not shown me anything different. Since they got Brent Venables and all these guys, their defense have not shown anything increase to me that I've seen in the Big 12. I don't think it translates to the SEC too fast.
I agree with you. I agree with you as far like I got them going 6-6. But I do think they have gotten a little bit better defensively. I think they're slowly but surely rebuilding it. It's going to take time. They're going to have to be patient with it. You have to think he was taken over for Lincoln Riley, who puts no emphasis on defense whatsoever. So I mean, you got to think that it was as bare bones as it possibly could probably be on that side of the ball. Kobe, you looked a little shocked when we brought that one up as a team that's in this rebuilding look. What do you think, man?
At that number 11 spot, I wouldn't have Oklahoma. I'll go a little bit more into why I think they are better than that 11 spot when I get to them in my ranking.
I got him
At
at
that
10.
11 spot, I'll put Auburn.
That's
Hugh
where I got him.
Freeze.
Yeah,
I can
At
see
that
all
11
yeah.
spot, do you believe
Oh,
Peyton Thorne is that guy? I don't
I
think
don't.
he is. You
I
got
don't
a
think so
guy in
either.
Cam Coleman. You got Perry Thompson.
He's
You got
great.
some new freshman
Great.
recruits in there. You haven't had a 1,000-yard season, God, I think maybe 20 years at Auburn. That defense,
Well,
they held teams to
we
about
can't talk on that one because we haven't had one
yeah,
in a
Jordan,
while either.
come on now.
So,
But look,
Terrence
I'd have
Evans.
Auburn at that 11th spot. I think Auburn can get 6 games this year. I think Auburn can get 4 wins bona fide at they're playing Vanderbilt, ULM, New Mexico, and Alabama A&M. I think that's 4 wins right there.
Yeah.
Then you have a game against Arkansas, and you have Cal. You have both of them at home. I think that's your 2 other wins. But then you have to go to Kentucky. You have to go to Missouri. You got Oklahoma and A&M at home. However, I think Oklahoma and A&M are both more talented rosters, and I think they have a better coaching staff in place at this point in time. I don't think Auburn can get those games. And, of course, Alabama and Georgia, those are losses in my eyes. I think Auburn can get 6 wins, and I'll have them at that 11th spot. However, I wouldn't view Oklahoma in that same light.
Well,
I've
it's funny.
got them both at
Oklahoma,
6-6.
I'm about to say Oklahoma's over and under for wins this year is 7.5. And I think Auburn's over and under for wins this year is
Probably about 6.5, I think.
7.5 as well. They
7.5.
got Auburn. That's pretty
So
high.
they are viewed in the same light. They
Yeah.
are.
They
But
are.
Kobe, I'm step to step with you on how you predicted that whole the schedule to go down. I got the same wins and same losses there, so I'm right there with you.
I think some people got some confidence in Hugh Freeze, man. And upgrading the talent for Auburn. So let's see.
Until the QB situation gets handled, though, I'm with you, Kobe.
Yeah, Peyton Thorne's
Thorne,
not a 7-win SEC quarterback guy in my eyes.
hey,
I'm sorry.
they gave both of our teams a run for our money, literally in the season with Peyton Thorne, and I understand that. But this year, the game is not being played at home, right? So
I,
for both of us. So
And I mean, look at this. I mean, let's just say they do win their first 4 games of the season, which is very doable for them. With Alabama, A&M, California, New Mexico, and Arkansas, it's very
I think
doable.
so. I think that's going to
Um,
happen.
if they get the Vandy, and let's just say they steal one of these, obviously these teams are preseason ranked currently, but let's just say they steal one of these ranked wins. Boom, they
They
will.
still a Kentucky win on the road, like
I
something
think
like
they
that.
could. That's the one I could
Yeah.
see is Kentucky. That's the one I could see.
Yeah.
So right now, so far, we named our bottom ones, and right now, 12 we had South Carolina. I went with 11 Auburn. I think Kobe's right there with it.
Yeah.
10 is where I had Oklahoma. It sounds like Torres is right there in that same
I,
ballpark.
yes, I would have Oklahoma there as well. Yes.
Okay.
I will say this at number 10. That's probably where I would put Kentucky and Mark Stoops. I had them right there in
I've got
that
them at 9.
range. See, yeah, I'll put Kentucky right there at 10.
So you got Oklahoma ahead of Kentucky this year.
I do.
Really? Okay.
I do. I have Oklahoma ahead of some teams this year that y'all are going to be very shocked. I'll let you know
Where do
whenever I get there.
you just what number do you have Oklahoma at, dude? And how many wins do you have them getting?
Let me look at my ranking. I have Oklahoma right there at. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
I know you're going to have them beating LSU.
I got Oklahoma right there at 7.
Okay, so you gave them LSU, didn't you?
I gave them LSU.
Yeah.
I like them over Kentucky. Also, I have them over A&M.
I mean, I'm looking at schedule. That's the thing. It's like
the schedule's
that's fair.
I'm about to say, let's just say Oklahoma could be a better team than Kentucky. It's just looking at the schedule Kentucky has formatted for themselves this year. Kentucky is literally in the driver's seat to have at least 7 wins. I mean,
I think that's exactly where I have them at 7-5. That's what I got them going. I've got them with wins. That's not my number 9 team right there. Is Kentucky? I got win over Southern Miss, win over South Carolina, win over Ohio, win over Vandy, win over Florida, win over Auburn, and win over Murray State. The rest I have losses. I've even got them losing to Louisville this year. And I don't think it's crazy to say. I do think there's a little bit of a distraction at hand with all the stuff going down right now, with them having to vacate the wins, that kind of thing. I feel like that will play somewhat of a part in this. I don't think it's going to be a crazy thing, but Kentucky's never a team that I fully go into. It's like they have to be a prove-it team for me. It's hard to buy the hype every year. Like every year that I feel like they come in, to play Georgia, and they're hyping it up. I'm just like, I feel pretty good about it. Even though we win an ugly game like 12-3 or something like that, like it's still just I never thought that we would probably lose that game. That's where I'm at. So I got them 9.
I'm about to say their over and under this year is 6.5 on wins.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got them over.
At that number 9 spot, that's where I put A&M. I had A&M maybe getting 8 wins this year. Had them right there in that 9 range. If we're looking at it if we're looking at a roster perspective, you would put them probably somewhere in the top 7, realistically. However, they've had more talented rosters in the last 2-3 years, and they haven't done what they should have with that roster. Now you got a new coach in there. The Jimbo Fisher era is gone. There's just a lot of unknowns. I think they can get 8 wins. You got the 3 with Bowling Green, McNeese, New Mexico State. I think they can beat Arkansas and Auburn. That's 5. Mm-hmm. I think they can beat Florida. That's 6. They beat Mississippi State. That's 7. And then I think they beat South Carolina. That is 8, but that is all I can give them.
I've got them pulling off some upsets. I do. I have
maybe Missouri at home. I think that could be a fun game.
That's one of them.
But I don't know. I think I trust Missouri a lot more than where Texas A&M. Like, who knows, though? If Texas A&M gets the ball rolling, if you ask me again in October, November, they could be a completely better team than I think. But as of right now, I'll put them in that 9 spot.
I've got them upsetting Missouri, and I had them upsetting another team you don't like.
Ooh.
And that's LSU.
Okay.
LSU at home. I had them pulling off the upset. So there's going to be an even bigger surprise coming up here soon. So we've come through that point where we've gone Vandy, UF, Mississippi State, Ark, South Carolina, Auburn, Oklahoma, Kentucky. That's where we're at. And then we had A&M just on that A&M and Kentucky and and Oklahoma, they're kind of, you can kind of mix and match. That's what we've kind of come to. It looks like they're in that same ballpark.
Mhm.
So now we're looking at eight through what, five? Is that what we said? Eight through five.
Eight,
Okay,
eight. We'll do 8 through 4.
8 through 4. So
Yeah.
8 through 4, and these are more of, you're looking at contenders. Now 8, I had A&M. Who did y'all have at 8?
At 8, that's where I put LSU.
Oh,
Yeah. Simply because, and we talked about this a little bit before the show.
Hmm.
I don't trust that defense, man. That defense was abysmal last year. I think we just got a lot of questions. You still have not necessarily a first. Yeah, you got a first-year starting quarterback that's going to be the predecessor of a Heisman caliber quarterback. I don't think you have the same talent at wide receiver. Do they have much of a running game this year? There's nothing notable about the LSU running game in my eyes. Combine that with a lackluster defense, I don't think their defense even cracks the top 60, 50 this year. Yeah, I would have to put LSU at that 8 spot.
I don't know. I think we're going to see some improvement there.
I would say for me, I got Texas A&M at that 8 spot.
Okay.
I really, looking at.
So we're in the same boat, me and you are.
Looking at something like it's the big thing about me with this is like, okay, we're more talking about schedule rather than which team I think is better. If we just going off just ranking teams, I think it could be a little different. But since we're talking about like their schedule per se, like A&M first game is actually pretty tough. They got Notre Dame. I know a lot of people sleep on Notre Dame, but Notre Dame actually played a lot better last year, and I think under that coach, they're going to be actually a pretty solid team. So I'm giving A&M that loss. All right, McNeese State win, Florida win, Bowling Green win, Arkansas win. That Missouri game is a toss-up game. I feel like that game could be a lot closer than some people might expect.
12th man.
12th
man's
man
going to show up.
At home.
Yeah.
Hey, and if anything, Texas A&M love upsetting people early in the season. They love to do it early. So
yeah,
that could be a winnable game for them. All right.
It can be.
Mississippi State at home to LSU. I still have a little faith in LSU for some reason. I think LSU.
I do too. I've got a lot of more faith. I don't know, but then again, I did it last year. Maybe they're fooling me again.
And then they're gonna beat South Carolina. They'll beat New Mexico State. They'll beat Auburn, and then they got Texas. So Texas A&M schedule without having Alabama on it, I can only give them about Texas, LSU, and maybe between Missouri and Notre Dame. So you potentially got 4 losses. Okay,
yeah.
At worst 3. Well, at worst 4, but more than likely you could just have 3. So Texas
I've got 9-3.
So they're right there, man. I give them.
I've got 9-3. I really do. I've got 9-3.
I gave them that loss to Missouri, but I'm just saying they're right there on the cusp. They're right there on the cusp.
Y'all know my losses for them. The 3 losses are Notre Dame. I got South Carolina pulling an upset.
Interesting.
Texas. Yeah, that South Carolina game, I believe that one's at South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I just feel like Beamer's going to have to pull something out of his butt. I don't have the season going good for him, so I feel like he's going to have to do some hot seat stuff, make something happen. So,
yeah.
What's your record you have LSU going for?
Who,
since
me?
Since you had them this low in the rankings, what was the record you had them with?
So for LSU, I had them probably right there in that 8-win range. Honestly, I have LSU really interchangeable with Oklahoma. I have both of them that either one of them can probably get you 8 wins, maybe. Right, let me pull up their schedule.
I'm about to say, I'm looking at their schedule right now and looking at LSU. I mean, barring anything stupid, they should be 5-0 before their first bye. So,
barring anything stupid?
Yeah. Barring anything dumb, they should be 5-0.
Kobe, please tell me you're not taking USC over LSU.
Not a chance, buddy.
Yeah.
I feel like that's 2 games. I feel like that's 2 teams that neither one of them have a lot of defense. But I think LSU has probably better quarterback play, I would say, at this point. And I think they have a little bit more depth at their skill positions. And their offensive line is a lot better in the trenches than anything USC has in the trenches. I will say that much.
I'm about to say their over and under for wins is 9.5.
I got them probably right there in that 8-win range and possibly 9. 9 may be a
Yeah.
stretch.
We're gonna have to wait till later in the show for me to talk about LSU.
Yeah.
Because I got
Yeah.
it.
I
I'm,
get
go,
it.
I'm just telling you. I got. We're gonna have to wait later for me.
Uh,
So
who y'all
we
got at
said
that 7 spot?
7. I've got Missouri.
I got Missouri as well. That's crazy.
What about you, Kobe? Who do you got? Come on.
At that 7 spot, that is where I put Oklahoma.
Man, you're driving the Oklahoma boat this year. Oklahoma is my Missouri from last year for you, is what it looks like.
See, Oklahoma, I got them at that 8, possibly 9 win. I got, like I said, Oklahoma and LSU can be interchangeable. However, I trust the defensive mind of Brent Venables. You got a guy like Jackson Arnold at quarterback, who I think Jackson Arnold can be a very elite quarterback
I like him.
at this SEC level. If you're looking at their schedule, Houston, Maine, Temple, and Tulane, that's 4 wins for them. I think they can beat Auburn on the road. I think they could beat LSU if LSU's defense hasn't taken a jump whatsoever.
They have no choice but to take a jump. That I can't give all my cards away too bad. That's the worst defensive performance they've had in LSU's history of the program. Yeah. They have no choice but to go up, man.
We say that, however, what additions have they made? Are they going to keep playing Harold Perkins out of position all year again? That's what I'm saying. It's like the decisions they're making with the pieces they have. I don't trust them enough to say that, that's just a bona fide win for LSU. So I think Oklahoma could win that game. That's going to be a primetime game at LSU. I think they can beat South Carolina.
At LSU.
Yep. I think because you're gonna have one of those games. You're gonna have a Texas or Oklahoma come in and win a game you think they shouldn't in a high SEC caliber game. I think Oklahoma at LSU could be one of those, and I also think Oklahoma will beat South Carolina, and they could beat Tennessee. Could be.
I don't got it. Tennessee's another one. We're going to have to wait till later on for me to talk about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, the reason why I got Missouri there, I mean, you have to just look at their schedule. They literally don't play. They only play 3 ranked teams, and I think that's all their losses.
It sets up nicely.
Every ranked team they play, they lose to. But that I feel like for this year. Now, could they go on the road and upset Texas A&M? Very possibly. So if your only losses is to Alabama and Oklahoma, which they have that Oklahoma game at home,
yeah,
I mean they're setting up themselves nicely. To be honest, to have their only loss to Alabama, I mean it's not far-fetched to say, hey, we could see a Missouri in a potential SEC championship game. I'm not calling that. But looking at their schedule and all that they only play, if they can go on the road and beat Texas A&M and beat that Oklahoma team at home, I just don't see them at all going on the road beat Alabama unless they don't have the season I expect them to have.
That's the losses I got is Bama and A&M. I got A&M pulling off that. I think it's going to be an upset at that time. I think Missouri's going to ride that high from last year. They're going to have a real good momentum coming into that game. And, that's just a great environment, going to A&M. It's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. Elko, he's going to have something to prove. And Missouri, from time to time, they have these little slip-ups. And I feel like it's going to happen here. Missouri also, I'm not as high on them this year as I was last year. And the reason being, I think their defense takes a step back. They lost a bunch of depth there, man. I don't know if y'all have really taken a look. They lost like 3 DBs. Like this past year in the draft, they are bringing in some transfers, but I'm going to be honest with you, they took a step back defensively, and that's for certain. I can tell you that without a shadow of a doubt. Running back, they're taking a step back in my opinion. That running back they had last year, I can't even remember his name now, but that's so awesome.
Was it Cody Schrader or something like that?
That's it, Schrader. Yeah, he was good. Now, they do still have Luther Burden. They still have Mookie Cooper. They still have Theo Weiss. Those are all good. They're bringing in some new guys.
Brady Cook, all those guys,
Yeah, Brady Cook's still coming back. So, I mean, there is some consistency there. But the other side of the ball, defense, it's not there. Offense, will they be able to run the ball like they did? Running the ball, like them being able to run the ball was really what kept them afloat. They were able to run it against every team, I felt like, for the most part. Right. Even us, he was ripping them, man. So, I mean, I don't know. There's some question marks there. But still, either way you look at it, 10-2 is a solid season. You set yourself up for potentially making the college football playoff. And if things go the way that I predicted them, it's going to be a lot of teams up for debate for this college football playoff.
Now, what is their over-under right now?
9.5. 9.5.
I would I would have Missouri right there at probably 9 or 10 wins. I actually had Missouri right there at my sixth spot. I'll go ahead and introduce that. At that sixth
Okay.
spot, that's where I had Missouri. I think you have four bona fide wins: Buffalo, Murray State, UMass, and Vandy. I think they beat Arkansas, they beat Auburn, they beat Boston College. That's 7 wins.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Mississippi State, they beat South Carolina. That's 9 wins right there. I think
Yep.
Alabama can be a loss, and I think Oklahoma and A&M can be a loss. So I think
You're correct.
at best they're 10-2, but if I had to predict it, I'll put them right there at 9-3. It's just going to be hard for me to believe that they beat Oklahoma, Alabama, and A&M, or they can maybe pull two out of that three, maybe.
This sets up for what you said that there could be four outgoing coaches. You talked about it. Somebody that could be looking for a promotion. I think Drinkwitz could definitely be that guy. I think Drinkwitz,
Yeah,
after having
I
another
agree.
solid
I
season
agree.
here at Missouri, I think he can cash in because after this year, you're looking at it. You're losing Luther Burden. You're losing Brady Cook. You're losing Theo Weiss. You're losing Mookie Cooper.
Yeah,
There's a lot of guys you're losing. And I do know they have recruited decently. Like they're starting to really ride some momentum in recruiting as well. They're bringing in the right guys. So
yeah,
this could be the time. Hey, let me cash out while I can. I'll take a higher position and go from there. But
yeah.
yeah, I agree with you, Torres. That's the seven I got. I'll introduce my six. You said your six was Missouri. My six.
Yeah.
Let's see if Torres and I agree here again. Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, I do not. No, I do not.
Ooh,
I
Ole
actually got
Miss.
I got Tennessee.
Okay. All right. Ole Miss, and I'll let me pitch to you why I got Ole Miss right here. Ole Miss, Kobe, you've sent us some messages from some forums that you've seen about Jackson Dart potentially being out with the ACL. That did play a part in the back of
Yeah.
my mind. I don't know if anything's really come out substantial about that. Is that
I
just
haven't
that's just
heard
rumor?
anything. So as far as these rankings, I'm not gonna base my
Put too
rankings
much in
off
it.
that rumor. Yeah. So
Yeah, I got them going 10-2. I got a
okay.
win against Furman, win against Middle Tennessee, win against Wake Forest, win against Georgia Southern, win against Kentucky, win against South Carolina. I had them losing to LSU. I think that's at LSU. Am I right on that?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. All right. Win against Oklahoma. I'm just not as big on Oklahoma as you are. Win against Arkansas. I feel like that's pretty much a given. Loss against UGA. That is at UGA again.
Okay.
Loss against Florida and loss against or win against Florida and win against Mississippi State. Sorry about that. So I had the only two losses: LSU and UGA. That's what I got.
That's fair. That could very realistically happen.
Yeah.
I'm going
So
Georgia.
six, you said Tennessee, and you've already given us yours with
Yeah.
Missouri. So Torres, tell us your pitch on Tennessee.
All right. Well, looking at Tennessee's schedule, early on they got them Chattanooga Mocs. Go Mocs, baby.
Uh
Uh, they're definitely not losing that game. But even though the Mocs are probably gonna give them a little run that first half, like we always do. We always give teams a run in the
You
first half.
can.
But second half, probably a little different. But after that, they got North Carolina State in Charlotte. You would think that okay, Tennessee has that. You would think. I don't have enough faith in Tennessee sometimes, man. I really don't. And probably because I'm here amongst a bunch of their fans a good bit and they aggravate me and I would love to see them lose every game I watch them play. It's probably that is more feeling me in than my actual like thinking. But I could see them losing to North Carolina State. Then I go to Kent State. They win that at Oklahoma. I talked about that. I talked about is Oklahoma going to be able to beat that team? I actually got Tennessee beating them surprisingly. So whether
Yeah.
I switch North Carolina State or Oklahoma, I still think they're going to come out 3-1 starting off the season.
Okay.
Then they got Arkansas. Then they got Florida. I mean, both wins.
Two
Then you
wins.
got Alabama. All right. As crazy as this might sound, the boys at home against Alabama. New
Don't
coach.
you do it.
Hey,
Don't you
man.
do it.
Hey, look. That place, that third Saturday in October, get the rocking in Knoxville, man. It really does. And the last time y'all came to Knoxville, we know what happened. So I'm just leaving it out there on the
Kobe.
table.
Kobe.
I'm just leaving it out there on the table, man. Look, and it would be so Tennessee to lose to a North
It,
Carolina State, but then
and
beat
then beat
Alabama.
Bama. It really
That is,
would be
that is
Kobe.
so
It really
Tennessee.
would be.
So
It really
it's
would
like
be.
I'm not. As I've already told you, like there's certain teams like Alabama. I know Alabama's going to destroy. I don't think this is a game that I can just mollywop and say Alabama automatically got. I'm not going to say that. I actually
Mm-hmm.
could see Tennessee winning this one. I'll believe that one 50-50. All right. Kentucky.
Hold on. What do you think Tennessee's record's going to be? Because I'll segue this with mine too. I got Tennessee at that 5 spot. I'm high on Tennessee this year. What do you think Tennessee's record is, and who do they lose to?
I can see them going 9 and I'm a 9-3 or 10-2. I really could.
I got them at 10-2.
I can see that.
But I think those 2 losses are Georgia and Bama. I think anything else on their schedule, I think they can win it. I think they can win it convincingly. I don't see them beating Bama because you got a lot of them boys, Malachi Moore, Deontay Lawson, you got a lot of them boys. They remember that pain of losing in Neyland 2 years ago. I don't think they go on the road. You have Kalen DeBoer. I don't think that group of seniors at Bama lets that team lose again in Neyland, especially this year. But I can't see a Tennessee beating an NC State. I see them beating Oklahoma. I just think they're 10-2. Their bona fide losses are Georgia and Bama.
Yeah, they lose to Georgia. They beat everybody else on their schedule, but I can see them losing either to NC State or Oklahoma, and they only losing one of those games. They're not losing both.
Yeah.
They only lose one of those games.
So 9 or 10 wins. That's a fair assessment.
9 or 10 wins. Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a world where they actually go 11-1?
You'll find out here in just a little bit.
Oh.
Tyler.
Oh man.
I kid you not. Should I just dive in now or should I wait?
Nah, let's wait. I started it off. I had Tennessee at that 5 spot. I think they can be a 10-2 team, but I do think you have those 2 powerhouses in Georgia and Bama that stops them from being anywhere near that top 4.
Their over and under is 9.5 as well.
And that's where you had them at 6, Torres, or 5?
They are at number 6 for me.
Yeah, okay. I put them at my 5. That's why I kind of segued into it.
All right. So I had Ole Miss at 6. Torres had Tennessee at 6, and you said you had who at 6, Kobe?
Oh shoot, my fault.
I didn't know if you'd already said it or not. That's my bad.
Yeah, I have Missouri at 6. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, you already said that. Okay, so who wants to lead us off at 5? Technically, you already said yours.
Yeah, I had Tennessee at that 5 spot. Torres, what you got?
I'm gonna go LSU. I got LSU at 5 for me.
Right. What is your confidence in LSU? What do you think they're going to be well at this year?
I think they're still going to be really good offensively, and I do think they step up their defense from last year. Last year, I mean, what Tyler was saying, I actually they were very bad defensively, and look how good that they did last year, along with having the Heisman. Yes, I don't think they're going to have another Jaden Daniels just walk into the room, but I still think their offense is still going to be top tier. I think what Brian Kelly brings to the table, I think he's a good coach. I mean, look what he was doing consistently at Notre Dame for all of those years. Yeah. I still think he's a good coach. I think he's going to have LSU still like in the mix. And I just think they're going to, like I'm saying, they're going to be in the mix. I'm not saying they're going to win SC, but I'm not going to be surprised if I see them go 10-2 and 9-3. Easily. Yeah.
I couldn't stand them, but you know, I still, you know, sometimes can't stand them. You know, like me and my dad just from the Notre Dame days. You know my distaste for Notre Dame. I just cannot stand Notre Dame. Y'all know that. But I'm a little bit more behind them now. I kind of like the coach they got now. But maybe it was just Brian Kelly. You know, I don't know. And the fact that they're always overhyped. But I think what you're going to see with LSU this year.
Yeah.
And you know, I'll lead into it later because they're coming up later for me. I promise you. But I think you're going to see a lot more ground and pound, and I think that defense is going to improve this year.
That's it.
All right, so
I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this as well. All of their really hard games, Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma, they're all at home.
All at home.
I know they got Texas A&M on the road, but their hardest games are all at home.
And all right, so I'm on the flip end of LSU, and I'm going to ask y'all this.
You always are.
Do you know who the leading rusher was for LSU 2 years in a row was?
It was Jaden Daniels, wasn't it?
Who's going to lead them in rushing this year?
I can't answer that.
Can you name their running back? I can't.
I can name it only because I have the depth chart here.
So
that's the only reason I can name it.
I understand you got the Lacey kid coming back, but you had Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors leave. Do you have the same wide receiver talent at that position?
Let's see here. They've got Chris Hilton. They got the Kyron Lacey, like you said. They got Aaron Anderson. I remember hearing about Aaron Anderson.
Aaron Anderson, he was the kid that transferred from Bama. He was an LSU native.
I remember there was some kind of Bama thing with that.
So here's my thing with LSU. Your leading rusher is gone. Your leading passer is gone. Your leading receivers are gone. Mm-hmm. And then you still have all those questions on defense. You do not have a dual threat quarterback. You can't even name their starting running back. I think LSU is on the more 8-4 end of that. I just that's where my confidence level
There
is with
are a lot of
LSU.
question marks, but there's one thing that's not, and I think that it rides on, and I'll bring it up again. It's the games are won in the trenches, in my opinion. Offensive line, I really do like their offensive line a lot. I'm not gonna lie
I
to you.
do too. I do
They
too.
got a very
They got a unit.
veteran laden offensive line. Will Campbell, Emory Jones bookending it. Like
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm saying I don't really think it matters that I can't name the running back. I think that this team's going to be able to get some push. I really
But
do. I think they're
I
going to be
think
able
it
to
does
push.
because then at the end, what makes you different than Iowa having a great offensive line if you can't even name a running back from there? You know what I mean? Like an offensive line can get you so far, but do you have the playmakers?
How many people knew about Schrader before? What was it, last year or the year before? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like how many people knew? Like I just feel like. How many people
Yeah.
like when those Patriots teams we had growing up, they could get James White, they could get Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, they could get
Yeah.
Riddell. There was guys coming out the wazoo that you
But
didn't even hear about before.
All those Patriots teams had defense. Does LSU have defense?
You're correct. You're
That's going to
correct.
be the
That's
same.
something. That's a question mark. You're right. You're right. And that's going to be something. Hey, I'm going to have to die on that hill. I am. So you said you're five. You said you're five. My five. The Texas Longhorns. Got him at 10.
That's
and
interesting,
2.
man.
Yeah, it's gonna be hot takey. It's gonna
That's
be hot
interesting.
takey. 10-2 is what I got him going. Okay, I got him beating Colorado State. Kobe, you and I were kind of briefly talking about it before Torres entered the chat here earlier, but I have them going to Michigan and losing, and I'm not. I just here's my thing. You talk about defenses taking a step back. I do think you're going to see a major step back on defense from the Texas Longhorns this year. They're not going to have those trench monsters like they have in years past, in my opinion. I mean, they lost, 2 or 3 of them in the draft this year. Big guys, great defensive players, okay? It got so bad, Kobe, this past offseason, they had to go and get Bill Norton, formerly came from Georgia, didn't play a ton. I mean, he's a great guy to have on the team and everything. Went to Arizona, and he's probably going to be a starter there. Now, I think that's how lackluster it's going to be on the defensive line for them this year. And that does not bode well when you're in the SEC, in my opinion. That's just me. Do I think Sarkisian's going to be able to draw some stuff up to get these guys scoring? Yes, I do. I have the question kind of like you do as far as the defensive thing with them. I had them losing to Michigan, had them beating UTSA, UL Monroe, Mississippi State, Oklahoma. I had them losing to Georgia. That will be at home. I do have Georgia beating them. Surprise. I have them beating Vandy, UF, Arkansas, Kentucky, and A&M to end it off. So it's still a great season, still going to be in contention for the college football playoff, but that's where I have it riding. Anybody got anything they want to say? Go ahead.
I will speak on Texas. I got them a little bit higher on my ranking. I'll speak on them when I get there. I think your questions are valid. Brother, I have no questions about that offense, and I think that offense can carry them pretty well in this conference. That's all I'm going to say for now.
So they lose Xavier Worthy. They lose Adonai Mitchell. Who else? Did they lose anybody else on the wide receiver? In the wide receiver room? They're bringing in Bond. I know they're bringing a lot of transfers.
Hey, they had a lot of talent come back. I know that much.
They got a lot of
guys that came back. I think Texas is going to be.
I'm dying to know who. I mean, I know they got an Isaiah Bond in the transfer market. I know they got Matthew Golden.
I'll speak on them when I get there. I'll speak on them.
Okay, all right. I'll leave it for you then. And I do like C.J. Baxter, and I do like Quinn Ewers for anybody that needs to know. Maybe you'll be able to enlighten me on some other stuff.
I got you.
Torres, anything you got to say on that?
So we're on number 4, correct?
Yeah, we can just go ahead and swing it to 4. So this is our elite of the elite. Go ahead.
All right. Well, my number 4.
Or Torres, go ahead and take it.
Well, my number 4. I got Ole Miss.
I'm in that same boat.
4. Looking at what Ole Miss has got. Furman, win. MTSU, win. Wake Forest, win. Georgia Southern, win. Kentucky, win. At South Carolina, win. These boys starting off 6-0 pretty hot. They have to go to LSU. All right? They're going to LSU. That game, like I said, I'm high on LSU because I got LSU literally right behind them on the rankings list at number 5. So that's really, really interchangeable based off who wins that game. But I'm just going with – I picked Ole Miss to win that game. on the road. They beat Oklahoma at home. They beat Arkansas. That's going to be a big game going against Georgia. Having Georgia at home, if what I think is the way it's going to, I'm predicting, that's a big game. I do have a little prediction early for Georgia, so I'm going to hold that one. But that's a big game, and obviously I have them losing to Georgia, and they beat Florida and they beat Mississippi State. So I could literally see Ole Miss potentially with one or two losses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So which one would you rather? Would you put your bet on, the 10-2 or 11-1?
I'll put my bet more on 10-2. The over and
That's
under
where I
for
go.
them is 9.5. The more predictions are only predicting them to only lose to Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. I'm going to go more 10-2 because I think the LSU game is interesting. But like I said, I had LSU more at 9-3 more than 10-2. They could go, but it just because of record purposes, the reason why I got Ole Miss in front of them. But like I said, it's both interchangeable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had them going 10-2. The only reason they fell so far back is because I had Texas going the same one, but only losing to Michigan and UGA as well.
Yeah.
So they shared the UGA loss, but they also had the Michigan. Kobe, go ahead with your 4.
At number 4, I did have Ole Miss. I like Ole Miss. I really do. I think I like them a lot more than most people. I just think they have a 10-2 season this year. I think Georgia's a loss, and I think one of these games is a loss for me. That at LSU game could be a loss, or I think they could lose to Oklahoma. I don't see them winning both of those. That's where that second loss comes from for me. Ole Miss, you have Jackson Dart. The running back position, Quinshon Judkins is gone, but you still have some talent back there. You got Trey Harris. You got Antoine Wells. You got a good tight end. You got
Yeah,
Walter
Juice Wells
Nolan.
coming in is a big deal, and I don't think people are thinking about
You got
that.
him. You got a defensive line that's actually kind of star-studded. You got an
Walter
elite.
Nolan.
Walter Nolan came in. You got an elite defensive end that's already there. Their question is going to be defense, but you did get some transfers in. You got Trey Amos, guy that was playing corner at Bama. He came in. Has some transfer come in on that back end of the
That
defense.
guy from Florida, Prince something,
Yep,
Prince
yep,
U. I
yep.
don't even know
I
his
think
last name.
Ole Miss can be a 10-2 team this year.
Okay. All right, so that leaves me for my number 4, and promise you won't kill me. At 10-2, I got the Alabama Crimson Tide. Is who I've got, and I know I'm going to catch some strays right here, and I promise I'm not doing this to spite you. All right, I promise
All right,
this. I'm
this is
not
what
doing.
you invite me to the show for. Okay, all right.
I promise I'm not doing this to do that. Because guess what? You know who I got as one of your wins? UGA.
There you go.
I got you beating UGA. All right, I cannot pick UGA against y'all until I see it again. Like, I really can't do it. I'm just at that point. I don't care if Saban's gone. I don't care what they
I
got.
do.
You know what has
I
changed.
do.
I know you do. I'm ready to hear
I do.
your thing,
Hey,
man.
hey,
I
we
won't
can't
wait till
beat
I see it.
Saban. It's not Alabama we can't beat. We can't beat Saban because of our head coach. He don't know how to coach against Saban. I think it's more about him going
I
against
got
Saban
I
than
gotta
us
I
going
gotta
against
believe it. I gotta see it to believe it. Okay,
Saban.
that's where I'm at. Um, I still, this is no crack. I got y'all beating Western Kentucky, USF. I got you beating Wisconsin, but I think that one will be a little bit tighter than some people think. And that's not a disrespect thing. It's at Wisconsin. I do think that the Luke Fickle there will have something kind of ready for it. He'll be trying to, it's still Bama's still Bama. That's still going to be a target for most people. That's going to be their Super Bowl. That's going to be Wisconsin's Super Bowl earlier in the season. They're going to give you their best shot, but they're not going to beat you, Kobe. Then I got you beating UGA, Vandy, South Carolina, and here's where things get a little interesting.
I'm telling you.
I do have it. I do have the Tennessee Volunteers beating you guys at home. They're bringing back a good bit of people. I'm a believer in Nico Amaliava. I am a believer in him. I think he's going to be solid. I think that they got a good, pretty good offensive line coming back. A lot of people returning. Brew McCoy's coming back from injury. I think he'll be pretty good. He was good before. Dante Thornton, Squirrel White, we all know of. They're pretty solid. I think they're going to get a little bit better defensively. It's not like they played awful against y'all last year. They gave you a run for your money there for a while. And I think they'll bring their A game. I got you beating Missouri. And then here's where the surprise comes in. I have LSU beating you at home. Okay? That's where I have the 2 losses coming in. And then you finish it out with Mercer, Oklahoma, Auburn. Okay? I
Which is
still
still
think
impressive.
Alabama's good. They still do have some things that I question. I'm still not fully sold on Jalen Milroe. He might turn me into a believer here this year. I think the defensive back situation we're going to see, that's something to me is a question mark. I do love y'all's linebackers. I got to give it to you. I do love some of those defensive linemen. Got to give it to you there. I'm still a little bit questionable on the defensive backs. And I need to see where those wide receivers are at as well. I know there's some stuff there. I'm sure you're going to talk about it here soon enough. But I think you guys are going to be able to run the ball. I do think that. I think I
Yeah.
like your offensive line. I do like the running back. So this is not a crack by any means. I do think you're firmly in the mix for the college football playoff. And who knows, maybe that's some yummy rat poison for you to go through the whole college football playoff and win it all, Kobe. So that's where I'm at with it. So I
Yeah,
promise you,
yeah.
I'm not trying to piss you
Alabama,
off.
Alabama's over and under is 9.5 on wins with their two losses. More of the predictions is Georgia and at Tennessee. Um,
Okay,
and
but I'm
since
not
we're,
with you on Georgia. I'm not with you on that.
since we're going to number three, anyway, that's my number three. I have Alabama at three for me.
Okay.
Um, my
With
two
what
losses,
record? Well, I guess
10,
I can. Yeah.
10 and 2. Georgia and at Tennessee. All right, now they beat Georgia. Boom. I could see them losing to LSU. But right now, I got them at least beating LSU from outside standpoint. I have to see more of LSU. I'm still a little bit more leaning on that Alabama way, but um, Alabama against Georgia, I'm excited for Kalen DeBoer, but that's going to be his first big game at Alabama. Granted, it's going to be at home. He's going
Gonna
to
be at
have the
home.
crowd. It's going to be a hard game, but
They're still a good team. I don't know why people think this. There's so many
oh,
people
they
out there
still
that
are a
think
great
No,
Georgia's
team.
they're
gonna
not
go
going
up
to
in
be. They're
there
not
and
going to be
whoop them.
close.
I'm not on that. I'm not on that bandwagon. I'm not in that bandwagon where people just think Georgia's gonna go in and whoop their butts because Saban's gone and because they lost some transfers. That is still a good roster. That is
Yeah, it's still a good
they are
roster,
still a
but
good roster.
I feel like there's a few questions at receiver and the secondary because of what they lost.
That's where I'm at too. Those are two of
So
my
yeah,
question marks.
we have to really see until we see in the actual games on what they're really showing. And I actually think we're going to see a huge improvement from the quarterback. What's his name right now? I can't think of his name.
Milrow.
Milrow. Yes, with him going to a coach like DeBoer, who's more offensive oriented, a guy that's going to be definitely in his having his hand on the quarterback. I think we see a lot better performance from him as well. But I
Mm-hmm.
think we see some uh, fallback from some of the other positions. That's why I have them where I have them. But they're still going to be a really good team. I mean, you're top three in the SEC. You're obviously still amongst the elite. I mean, I'm just going to go in and say I don't have any team in the SEC going undefeated. So it is what it is.
Yeah, Kobe's over there changing his three to Georgia real quick. I can see him running. I'm gonna get them.
No,
Uh,
sir. No,
Go
sir.
ahead and hit me with a three. Let's hear what you got.
Number three, I do have Texas.
Okay.
I'll put Texas at number three. Here's my deal with Texas. Texas has three key games on their schedule this year.
Mm-hmm.
I have them losing two out of the three. I
All
got
right.
Texas going 10 and 2. Oklahoma, rivalry, first time in the SEC together. That is a toss up game for me. Not from a talent perspective,
You're
but
right.
we've seen less talented Oklahomas beat
Yes,
more
we have.
talented Texas. You
Texas.
know what
You're
I'm saying? That
correct.
could
You're
happen at any
correct.
given time.
That's the same kind of thing I got with LSU and Bama. It's that
Okay.
rivalry aspect, bro.
Okay. That's fair. However, Michigan and Georgia,
Yeah.
I think you win one of those, but you lose the other.
Okay.
I would like to think that Texas only wins one out of those three key games. They could very well go 11 and 1. I think they could lose to Georgia, even though it's at home. However, they're playing Michigan on the road, and Michigan is no slouch. Michigan is going to have defense. Michigan is going to run the ball. If there was a team best suited to beat Texas, it is at Michigan because they're going to ground and pound, take time off the clock, keep Quinn Ewers and company off the field, and that is going to be at Michigan.
That's what I'm saying.
I just see Texas
Oh,
going
yeah.
10 and 2 somewhere in that schedule. I love Texas. I love Steve Sarkisian, Quinn Ewers. I had Quinn Ewers as my best returning quarterback in the country this year. I think the running game is going to. I think the running game is going to be all right enough to support them with the passing game. Passing game is going to be elite. You already
Elite.
gave all the questions about defense. We ain't got to go over that. I just think with that schedule, out of Oklahoma, Michigan, and Georgia, I think Texas only wins one out of those three. So that's why I got them at 10 and 2 at number three.
Okay. My number 3, I've got Tennessee going
That's
11 and
interesting.
1
That's
this season.
interesting to me.
It's very. I'll run you through it. UTC. I don't have them losing North Carolina State. I looked at North Carolina State's. I mean, don't get me wrong. They might make it gritty. I'm not buying into it. I got them beating Kent State. I'm like I said. I'm not huge on Oklahoma. I think they could beat Oklahoma, Arkansas, Florida. I have them pulling the upset against Bama at home, beating Kentucky, Mississippi State, losing to UGA, and then winning against UTEP and Vandy. Okay, really the only toss ups there are Bama, UGA, and like y'all said, maybe you can make a case for Oklahoma or NC State, but in my mind, I just don't see it. I'm not as huge on it. But I got UGA winning that one. I just think we got the card. Like I really do. Like I feel like every time we play them, we know what's coming as far as what the offense is going to do, the gimmicks and things like that they run. But I think that they end up going 11-1. I know that's crazy, but looking at the roster, I mean, I done kind of read out what I like about it, and they are bringing back a lot of like upperclassmen, seniors, juniors, that kind of thing. To me, that plays a little bit of a role, and obviously the way that the way the schedule plays out. So I know it sounds nuts, but I got them going 11-1.
I just can't get
Oh,
behind that. I just
oh,
can't get behind that at all. I had
oh.
Tennessee at 5. I'm very high on Tennessee. I love
Mm-hmm.
Nico. I think I had Nico over Arch Manning coming out of high school. To be honest with you, you
He's
got some
awesome.
guys at the receiver spot. You got James Pierce on that D line coming off the
Yep.
edge. I think there's just too many questions with that secondary, and I question their running game. I think those
Okay.
I think those are going to be my biggest questions. However, I think the ceiling is what you predicted for Tennessee. I think they could
Mm-hmm.
go 11-1. I think that's their ceiling. However,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't predict. If I was a betting man, I would not put money on that.
It's just when I was going through, I always go through and I look at each of these teams one by one and look at the schedules and how I see it playing. Now, of course, you have to pick some upsets from time to time, and
Yeah.
what better than doing it at home? Like especially those home crowds, like LSU, like
Yeah.
A&M, like Tennessee. Those are three crowds I look at, and I'm like, that's a hard place to play. Auburn too. Like that. Those are hard places to
Well,
play.
you also have to remember this too. It's like we're talking about obviously the contenders and the elites being so close. I mean, all these records were named at 10-2.
Oh, Jackson chiming in. Vols are better than Ole
See,
Miss.
Jackson's not
Playoff
on the Ole Miss
bound.
train, man. Jackson's not on
There
the
you
Ole Miss train.
go.
Yeah, he's on
There
Ole
you
Miss.
go, Jackson.
But because we have so many of these teams so close, we have a lot of teams we said that were contenders, potential 10-2, 9-3s, and then we even got
Yeah.
guys that are elite potential 10-2s. It's the SEC now. I mean, it is a toss up where we potentially could have 3, maybe 4 teams in the playoff. So all of these teams, you having Tennessee at 3, or you having Texas 3 or 2, wherever, like these teams are like that neck and neck,
It's
and
it's
it's
thin
critical.
margins. It really is.
Yeah.
It is thin margins. So don't take it by disrespect. It's just,
No,
man,
it is
Yeah.
it's
thin.
close.
Yeah.
So
Number
that's
2,
all of
man.
our threes, right? So twos.
I'll go
I just
2.
I'm. You want to go ahead and do the
Nah,
two.
let me go ahead and get number 2 out the way
All right, you
because
go first. You go
I
first.
know
Yeah,
y'all
yeah.
are waiting.
I'm not
I,
put on.
I
UGA.
know y'all are waiting on it. However, I like to think of it like this. I found Jesus Christ when I was 7 years old, and that was whenever I watched Nick Saban beat Tim Tebow for the first time. And I feel like those coincided very nicely. Nick
Okay.
Saban is gone. I love him to death. I hate to see it. I'm happy about the trajectory of Bama, but it's the Kobe Bryant versus Michael Jordan comparison. If Michael Jordan is Nick Saban, who is Kobe Bryant?
Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
That is why I got Bama at number 2 on my list. I think Bama's only loss this year is going to be to Georgia at home. Hear me out. I love where Bama is at. I love the recruiting. I love the atmosphere. The temperature of the
Recruiting is
fan
good.
base is at an amazing spot. This is Georgia. Georgia has a lot less questions than Bama, a lot less. And they have the roster to go toe to toe with Bama like they do year in and year out. However, the way I have this season predicted, I have Bama and Georgia still making the SEC championship together. But what is Torres?
Y'all
Torres
better.
says this a lot. Torres preaches this a lot. He
Hard to beat
preached
the
it
same
with
team
Oregon and
twice.
he preached it with Oregon and Washington plenty of times last year. It's hard to beat the same team twice.
Yes, it is.
So I'm going to give Georgia the win in the regular season, but I like Bama to come beat Georgia in the SEC championship this year.
All
That is
right.
where I got him. However, this is a prediction. This is a conference preview. I have the Dogs going undefeated this year in the regular season.
Wow. Okay. Wow. What?
Really?
Just let me ask you this though. You said you know the question marks that is on Alabama's team. What would you highlight as the question marks for you guys?
Well, talent isn't the question. We know they got guys. They still got a lot of 5-star kids on that roster. We had five
Yep.
star kids go take a hiatus at a school up north for 6 months and come back. You know
And
what
come
I'm
back.
saying?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
talent is there. Defensive back, I think the talent is there. They are young. You're going to have 2 to 3 guys starting at that corner spot that are freshmen, 18 years of age. They are young men. They're
So
not going
you
to be
don't.
ready.
What I'm
You
looking at is Deshaun Jones at a corner, Damani Jackson at a corner. Is
Damani
that not
Jackson is
true?
a multi-year starter at USC, 5-star kid. He's good.
Yeah.
Jalen Mbakwe will be a starter. I feel like I think he made good
Really?
strides in the spring. He's by far
Okay.
one of their best athletes on that defense. And then you got a guy in Xavier Brown from Modern Day. I think that would be your third guy in that
Cool.
rotation. The other guys, you got a bunch of young talent. They're just inexperienced. I like where we're at with safeties. I like Keon Sab. I think him coming from Michigan is going to help, especially with the departure of Caleb Downs. Malachi Moore, he's a
Yeah.
bona fide first round
Yeah.
draft pick. He is
Not even a
otherworldly.
question with him.
I think that we have the deepest linebacker room in the country. I have full confidence saying that. When you have a Jahad Campbell, you have a Deontay Lawson, you're going to have a guy like Keon Keeley coming off the edge, Keanu Coe. We got an abundance of outside edge guys. In that interior of the defense, there is a couple of questions. The talent's there. However, you're going to have a lot of guys that are going to be getting a lot of their first snaps. Offensive line is going to be good. Running game is going to be good. Who's going to be wide receiver one on that offense? I trust Jalen
Mm-hmm.
Milroe. I trust what Kalen DeBoer can do with Jalen Milroe,
It's
especially
Kendrick
in the
Hall,
running
right?
game. Who is going to be number one? It could be Bernard from Washington that just transferred in. It could be Kendrick Law. Apparently, he's been putting up good numbers in the spring. Could be Kobe Prentice. That's a guy that he's kind of been starting since his first day there. He's been in the
Mm-hmm.
mix a little bit more than the rest of them. And then you also got a kid in Ryan Williams. He's going to come along slowly but
Yeah.
surely.
5-star.
Who is going to be your wide receiver one? I think that is their only and biggest question on offense.
Okay. Yeah. Figured out at least.
With
Ask
that, with
just to
that being
see.
said, I think they can go undefeated with this schedule outside of Georgia. I think Georgia just had, for what we have questions about with Bama, I think Georgia has the answers. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Torres, you want to take your number two? Or you want me to go at it?
Yeah, I'm gonna go number 2, man. And y'all know I love my dogs, man. Y'all know I love my dogs, but I got them at number 2. All right,
Ooh.
I got them at number 2. They beat Clemson, they beat Tennessee Tech, they beat Kentucky, they
Yeah.
beat Alabama on the road.
Yeah.
Yes, they beat
Yeah.
Auburn, they beat Mississippi State. I don't think we beat Texas that first game we played them.
That's going to be, for Georgia, that's the kicker for me. Texas
That
is going to be tough because you got to think about it. Even whenever A&M came into the conference back in, 2013, 2014, Georgia never went to A&M. Georgia never did that. We're going to see Georgia go to Texas, have to win a game on the road. That is the only toss-up game for me in my mind on this schedule for Georgia. You can say Bama if you want to, but Texas has the offensive weapons to where if it's a shootout, Texas might be one of the only teams in the SEC that can beat Georgia in a shootout.
Yeah, because you got to think about, like, 4 weeks later they play Ole Miss on the road, and I'm actually more confident in the Ole Miss game than I am in the Texas game on the road. I feel like Kirby probably want to get back at Lane, because I remember when Kirby first became coach at Georgia, we played Ole Miss on the road and we got beat like 40 something to 20. It was pretty bad, you know. And I remember that game, but I really do think that Georgia. I said this already earlier. I don't think any team goes undefeated.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't think there's a single undefeated team.
Undefeated at all. And I have Georgia losing to Texas, but they went out, and since obviously Georgia's my number 2, Texas is my number 1. And I think they rematch SEC championship game, and Georgia get them the second time.
Who does Texas lose to?
Texas only loss, as surprising as it is only to Michigan for me.
That's fair. I can get behind that thinking.
And they wipe. I mean, when you look at the rest of the schedule, they wiped the board just about. I mean, yeah, you got Oklahoma, but after Georgia, they beat Georgia. It's cake. So I mean, you technically really got, like you said, 3 hard games. I see them beat. I don't think them losing Oklahoma again. That Michigan game gonna be raw. They're gonna be a hard game, man. That's not gonna be
Yeah.
no walkthrough. And with Georgia being at home, now this is gonna be the other kicker that I didn't think about. Oklahoma and Georgia back-to-back games. Oh my
Yeah.
God,
And see,
back-to-back
that's why I
games.
said earlier, Oklahoma,
A&M at the
Michigan,
end
and
might be
Georgia,
something.
it would be hard for them to walk away 2-3 out of those 3 games for me.
Yeah, I can see that.
At A&M is also one I'd say that
And see,
they're at the
that's
very end.
another rivalry that hasn't happened in a
Yeah.
while. Interconference,
Yeah.
like that. That's tough. That's tough.
It's something
That's
you
tough.
got to keep in the back of your mind, though. It's not
Yeah.
to be overlooked. You can't overlook that. My number 2, and if you do the math, you can probably figure out who it is. It's LSU going. I got them going. I'll tell you, hey, I ride with it. I die with it. I probably end up eating some crow here. I did it last year. It's just the way I figured it, bro. All right, I got them beating USC, Nichols, South Carolina, UCLA, South Alabama. So they're starting off 5-0 right there. I had them beating Ole Miss. Okay, I got them beating Arkansas, going to A&M and losing. I have that being the one that they slip up. I feel like LSU, that's one thing they always do. They slip up in some game that they shouldn't, but they rise to the occasion for the most part in the games that they ought to. Like they really try to put, I don't know, it's that mentality thing, I guess. They're playing up to those big games. I got them beating Bama at home, Florida, Vandy, and Oklahoma. So I only got them with one loss, and that's against A&M. 11-1 is how they finish. And of course, if you keep doing the math, I got Georgia. I got them going 11-1, and I got them obviously losing to Bama, like I listed out earlier. I think they win every other game.
Wow, I'm the only
except
one
for
that had Georgia going undefeated. What is this?
Correct.
What are we doing?
Correct. I can't get that high on it, man. Like it's just the SEC is too deep. Like it's literally too deep. I think that there's going to be some like literally if you can go undefeated in this conference, that's saying a lot. Like that's saying a lot
And see, that's the thing. This is the toughest schedule we've seen Georgia have in a very long
in
time.
a while. In a while,
Man, listen, if there was a team that had the defense stacked enough to shut down a Texas, it could very well be Georgia. You got Malachi Starkson coming back there. You got a plethora of DBs. Your front 7 is always going to be elite. You got an experienced quarterback. You're always going to have a run game. Wide receiver, we're waiting for a guy to pop out. However, I don't think you take that much of a dip because I think you have guys in the tight end room that are going to step in and fill Brock Bowers' shoes.
Urasek and
It's
Dell.
very
A lot of people
underrated.
forget
That
about
tight end room
Urasek.
is very underrated. It didn't decrease in talent as much as you think it did. I think Oscar Delp and them boys. I like Georgia to go undefeated if they do. If they were to lose, I do think it would be to Texas on the road because I do think Georgia hasn't experienced a game in that aspect in a very long time. But to each his own. Texas, Bama, Georgia, each of them could very well be one loss and win the conference. I think Georgia's the only one that could do it and go undefeated.
I really do like our schedule. The one area that we vastly have to improve on is the defensive line. It was absolutely demoralizing watching us just get ate up on runs the whole freaking
And that's
SEC
how Bama
championship
beat.
game.
That's how Bama beat you on the SC championship.
I know
That
it was demoralizing.
interior
It was,
trenches.
dude. It was just awful. It was awful. We no longer had the Jalen Carter. We no longer had
Jordan Davis.
Jordan Davis. Like it was. So somebody's going to step up here, and it's going to have to be Stackhouse, Brinson. It's going to
Stackhouse,
have to
baby.
be Xavier McLeod, Jamal Jarrett might have to make a move. Jordan Hall, Christian Miller. Somebody, anybody, do something. That's just how it's going to be. I do think we had the dudes to do it. I think we could go undefeated. It's just I wouldn't bet on it. I think that's not a safe bet whatsoever. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. And like I said, going against Bama, at Bama, I still think there's just this mentality thing. I don't know. I'm not willing to take it yet. I do think we can be – I think we can push – look, the thing with Texas, I just think we can win with physicality. Like, I know that their offensive line is going to have their hands full, at least for the most part with ours, but – hey, I can't remember what the guys' names were. Those 2 defensive tackles they had last year that were just studs. Like first,
Sweat
second round guys.
and
Sweat. And there was another one. There was another one, but they were both great. They don't have that no more. We know Bill Norton.
Yeah.
Like we know that guy. So I mean, I don't know. I think we can handle it as far as the trenches goes. And this is a stacked offensive line. Like our offensive line. We should be up there in that whatever that award is.
Bama and Georgia have the best offensive line in the country, in my opinion.
Michigan's always in the mix because they
LSU
just
could be up
always
there
are.
as far as offensive line
LSU, I think could.
Yeah.
I think they could too. But yeah, you're right. Those are four of the ones, and I think we just got all the pieces, like you said, tied in. Running
Yeah.
back now, I feel really good with the running backs. I feel really good about the wide receivers, even with the dismissal of Ra Thomas.
Yeah.
I still just think we got dudes. Beck's gonna have to pour it on, man. I think that he can. I think he can go out and win a Heisman. It's just it's balls in his court, man. Got to make it happen.
Yep.
So,
Be good.
don't get me wrong. I'm not sleeping on us at all. Picking that we lose a game, but yeah, there's a
Roll
little thing
Tide,
from
Jacob.
some roll tide from Jacob right there. So
Roll
number one. So you had Georgia number one finishing Torres. So now you had
I had Texas.
Georgia, Texas at one. So that wraps it up, man. So I don't know. Biggest surprises. I know y'all are surprised at Tennessee and LSU in mine.
LSU's tough.
I know it's out of nowhere, but you got
I
to
would
predict
say
some type of
LSU is tough,
craziness.
and honestly, your lack of faith in Missouri is kind of concerning. Because last year you were on the Missouri train a little bit.
I
Like,
was.
They were
They
I
were
thought
a
you would
lot
carry that
better.
into this year a lot.
No, I'm not because they lost so much, man. The defensive side is what got me, bro. It's just here. Let me see if I can even find that 2023 Missouri roster because they lost
They had some dudes, man.
Rakestraw. They lost there's just a lot of dudes they lost. Let's see here. I'm pulling it up now. Schrader, like you said on the running back. They had some guys. Who's that guy? They had Johnny Walker, who ended up being a really highly drafted guy. So that makes a big hit, in my opinion. I think Tyron Hopper, I don't think he's back. To be honest with you, I liked him a lot. Chris Abrams Drain, and Ennis Rakestraw, those are two of the biggest things. That's two top tier corners right there, in my opinion. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just see defensive. I think they can still put up some points offensively, but can the defense hold?
So who do y'all have winning the SEC this year? What is your SEC championship game?
UGA LSU and UGA winning it.
I got UGA in Texas, and I got UGA winning as well.
I got Alabama and Georgia, and I do think Alabama can win that second game against Georgia.
All right, that's gonna be good.
I wouldn't be shocked, Jacob.
We're gonna have a good little season. I think it's gonna be a good season, man. I'm so ready for football season. So it's pitiful, man. When I'm in fight camp and I ain't got much to watch. I watch a lot of different TV shows and stuff, but I'm so ready to watch football, man. NFL. I'll even watch the Hall of Fame game. That's how I know. That is how dry I am for football.
You're fiending for some football if you're watching the Hall of Fame game, bro.
I know, right? Hey, wasn't bad. That quarterback.
Really?
Doggone it. Can't think of the name. Dang.
It was the Bears and who was playing in that? Bears and
I can definitely tell you. It was the quarterback for the Bears, man. He actually was playing not
Caleb
too
Williams
bad.
didn't play, right?
Ripon.
Rippin, yeah.
Rippin. That boy was showing out. He actually had a pretty good game. That just was showing out. So, and I hate the kickoff rule. The kickoff rule pisses me off. Seeing that, like them starting that close, I say, wait a minute. What's going on here?
Brother, could y'all imagine what Devin Hester would do with these new kickoff rules? Like, that's what I think about. Hey, listen.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Well, anything else you guys want to mention here before we go? Oh, yeah, here, Torres' NFL team needs to put on some dang boxing gloves.
Why we got to put on boxing? What the Steelers do?
Hey, you got NBA YoungBoy out there, receiver, and George Pickens, baby.
Glorilla coming out to the practice. I saw that.
That's how I know we're in a different age. Mike Tomlin don't go soft. We would have never let that happen. He would never.
Hey, in that Palomalu era, you wouldn't be seeing all that, man.
No, he would have. Jane Harrison would let that happen. You're right.
Ryan Clark and them boys, they not going for it.
Said they be getting into it at practice.
Oh well, I would want them to. I want to see some fights in this. I want to see some get back. You know.
Hey, I will say this: I like Peyton Wilson, that linebacker y'all got from NC State. I like him a lot.
Okay.
I like him. I think he bleeds that black and yellow. I think he has that mentality to be a good Steeler, you know?
Hey, that's what we're looking for, too. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. All right, well, I guess that's going to wrap it up for us here today. Thank you, Kobe, for joining. Thank you for all out there that tuned into the live stream. If you're out there listening to podcasts, thanks for tuning in there. If you guys want to support, go to the description in this podcast. Click on the Linktree link, and there's many different ways you can kind of support. Across the screen, we've had our our ats, going across there, our handles for X. If you want to follow us there, that'd be greatly appreciated. But thank you guys for listening in, and as always, we'll see you next time.
Boom, boom.